In today's video, I'm going to show you what to do if you're having problems with your counter subject. Okay, so I have a fugue here from my opera Ballet Salambo. It's a fugue for children's chorus, and here is what I wrote. Situation. Whenever I listen to my fugue up to tempo, I always notice that something feels funky in the counter subject at measure 8, first half, as well as its equivalent in the subdominant measure 26. I've been putting off addressing it so that I can focus on more substantial areas of the fugue, but I'm beginning to feel that not addressing this is leading to a larger structural problem or problems, albeit inadvertently. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is to identify what is the problem or situation if you like to think a little more optimistically, okay? I generally find sometimes describing the problem that half solves the problem, or at the very least, I'm going to have a lot of information to work with, okay? So let's just break it down. So whenever I listen to my fugue up to tempo, okay, so at the real speed, I notice that something feels funky or weird in the counter subject at measure 8, first half, okay? So let's look at that. Okay, in the first half, something feels off. I'm not really sure what it is. And notice I said in parentheses, as well as its equivalent in the subdominant in measure 26. So this is in the tonic and this fugue. Later we go to the subdominant, still in the exposition. Let's take a look. Put a little bit onward. All right. So the key part here, the counter subject is now in the top voice. Just something just feels off. It's not enough to throw off the whole piece, but at a certain point when you're listening to your fugue up to tempo, make sure you listen to the fugue up to tempo because things will sound differently. If you're noticing you're ignoring something, that something bothers you and you're not addressing it, then you may suffer, okay, later on. I've been putting off addressing it so I can focus on more substantial areas of the fugue, but I'm starting to get worried. So basically, I want to focus on the development because I had no material, at least the exposition. I have most of the material, okay? Next, I have action. Write out the questionable section on a separate piece of paper. Include the previous measures and the measures afterwards to give full context. Okay, so I have a separate piece of paper. It says fixing the counter subject. I think this is important. Sometimes I just compose direct on UP, just the section in question, and I find that can be very useful, but many other times I want to give full context because you may find a solution that works in and of itself, but if you go into it, hearing up the tempo, or getting out of it, you may discover that it doesn't work, okay? Okay, so I recopied over. Next, I asked myself, what is the problem? Okay, now we described the problem, but I still don't feel like I'm hitting it. Okay, then I put action. Erase the problematic measure and compose from scratch. So in this case, I had written out the music exactly, copied it over, and I was trying to like play through it, figure out what sounds a better option. But sometimes I just find it's good to just like completely erase it, just like have a fresh measure. Now in this case, the response isn't going to change, so I guess you just leave the response. But just to erase, and that allows you to come up with something new. Okay, so you're not like limited by the faulty information, and just see what you come up with. Okay. So I did that and I had some good results. So I put excellent, which I really rarely put. Compose a simpler version that is now a 5/4. This is perfect as I have been considering it for this measure to prolong the half cadence. So let's take a look. Let me just play that 5/4 on its own. I had a little mistake. Just redo it. And what I like about this is, so I basically added a beat on the second half. So there's a half cadence here. Okay. And I mean, it depends on how you're hearing it, but I kind of I felt I need to stay on the cadence a little bit longer because also this is a modulating fugue. So we're going to be modulating either to minor or to major. So by having the 5/4, it allowed me to soak in that harmony a little bit more, okay? Of course, when you are composing in your own style, you have to be sensitive to your own taste. And if you were doing a fugue at school that's like on the style of Bach or, really like structural, then they would be like, no, you can't do that, which is why you have to compose your own fugues. Okay, so then I put next. Test out the solution for the equivalent section in the subdominant section of the exposition. So you remember what I said earlier is when you're going to fix things with the counter subject, you're going to have to fix in multiple areas. Okay, so in this fugue, we go to the subdominant exposition and we have the counter subject. I'm not going to play it exactly because it's a little too complicated for my fingers, but I'll just like outline the harmony and the melodies. Okay. Can't really play it like that. But basically, it still works here. But remember, it gets trickier because now there's three voices. So the first time the counter subject is going to come in, it's usually two voices. Now, you may have it differently in your fugue. You may wait for other reasons. But in this case, it was more traditional. There's only two voices. So then if you adjust it at two voices, you want to make sure that you adjust it when it happens again and see if it works at three voices. Probably it should work, but you're going to have to adjust something. In this case, I added a beat, so that means I have to maybe fix the middle voice, okay? If you look at the original, take a look at the original for the middle voice, and then look at the new result. Okay, so not that much different, but you have to always test it. So just to review what I did, I composed it in the subdominant, okay, for this at the three voices, okay. And I made sure to recompose the third voice, of course, the middle voice here. The counter subject was just copy and paste from what we just did. That's all I really have to say. I do have a couple final tips for those who wish to stick around. First off is when you have problems in your counter subject, it's best to fix them sooner rather than later. I understand that there's so many other things you want to work on and you got through the exposition, you think you're good to go, but you may be surprised how it limits you. For example, I have a different passage that I realized that I thought wasn't very important. And in it, to figure out some issue I had at the counterpoint, I came up with this 16th note quick thing that ended up being used as thematic material throughout the rest of the fugue, okay, which is beautiful. So you may need to address the problem with the counter subject sooner than you would like to, okay? And then the last note I have is the importance of fifth species counterpoint. If you look at the corrected measure 26, we have the response, with the countersubject, and of course the countersubject completes it, where the response is holding, the countersubject is going to move, the countersubject is going to clarify the harmony, and of course the middle voice is going to further enrichen the harmony. This is often where you start doing suspensions, but notice how it also has a different rhythm from the rest to try to fill it in. When the other two voices are more active, then it's going to hold. And these are things we work on in fifth species. Have a great day.